This is a maintenance video for the bolt system for the Eclipse GTEK. Basic maintenance of the bolt system only requires the can and bolt to be cleaned. Stay tuned to the end of this video for the advanced maintenance of the spool and switch assembly. With the bolt mechanism removed from the marker, simply unscrew the can and slide off this piece, the main firing assembly, and place to one side. Push the bolt through the can, moving the bolt. Take a microfiber, wipe off any excess grease. Take the can, pay particular attention to the number 17 O-ring around the inside front of the can, and wipe that with a microfiber. Also use that in the back of the can, clean out the internal bore. Final part that needs cleaning would be the bolt guide. The O-rings that are on the bolt guide can just be wiped clean. Now take your Planet Eclipse grease, a small amount, end of finger, and just wet the O-rings around the bolt guide first. Place that to one side. Take the bolt itself. You want again to just wet the rear 14x2 O-ring at the back of the bolt and also a small amount, again just wetting the surface, no excess left on the bolt, and this part here. Remainder take and just apply to the inside. Wipe off any excess. You can then slide the bolt onto the bolt guide. You should make sure that there is some friction between the bolt and the bolt guide. It shouldn't just fall off. Finally, take the can, small amount, again pinches around the internal number 17 O-ring, and the excess that's left can be applied to the inside and just smeared around. Slide the can back over the bolt and screw it back into position. That's the basic maintenance of GTEK bolt system complete. This is advanced maintenance of the Eclipse GTEK bolt system. We've already covered lubrication and cleaning of the can and bolt, so we'll remove these two parts first. Next part to remove is the bolt guide. This can be done either by using a microfiber to grip the bolt guide and unscrew the bolt guide, or if it's extremely tight, take a 2mm or 5/64 hex key, carefully slide it through a couple of the ports inside the bolt guide and just use that to gently lever the bolt guide around. Once it's loosened, you can remove that and take out the bolt guide. This is the bolt guide. Place that to one side. You then have the spool. You have the spring, spool spring, and spring guide. And then inside here are two more parts that will require a bit of a tap on a soft surface to remove them. Inside here you have the plunger, which holds the back cap in place, and this part which is called the switch. The order that they go back together will be plunger first, then the switch, then the spring and guide, then the spool, and finally the bolt guide. We'll take each of these parts one at a time and wipe them down to remove the old grease or any debris build-up inside. Take the spool, wipe the spool off, and wipe off the bolt guide, both internally and externally. Once they've all been cleaned, you can go about re-greasing them. We'll put a very small amount of grease onto the plunger first. In fact, what we're going to do is put the back cap in place. Then one of the most difficult parts of the reassembly is getting the plunger dropped back in the correct way around. It goes with the dome surface towards the back where it acts on the pin. I'm just going to try dropping that in, and luckily managed to get that in first time. I'll just poke that into place. Next is going to be the switch. Again, 2 O-rings on the outside. These can be a number 15 or a number 16. Just lubricate both of those, and anything that's left just smear around the inside where the spool is going to go. You can just drop that into place and push it down to the bottom. Then we have the spool. So we'll do the 2 seals at the back. Main valve seal in the middle, near the onion, as we call it. Again, a very small amount on the number 8 at the front. You can then take a spring and insert it into the back of the spool, and that can be slid into the switch at the back, and take the bolt guide, place it over the spool, screw that back into place. Again, just like we took it off, you can either screw it back in using a microfiber to make sure it's tight, or very carefully 5/16 hex key and just make sure it doesn't have to be tightened at all. Literally just screw it in until it stops against the body. Before we reassemble the bolt, which we've already lubricated inside the can, we'll put a small amount of grease back onto the number 13 O-rings. Put the can back on, and the whole assembly has now been greased. We then slid back into the body of the marker.